Hi there, and welcome to a journey through time, where the past comes alive in whispers, shadows, and stories. Tonight, we take you into the quiet, hidden lives of ancient Greece, where every dawn and dusk carried the rhythm of families, rituals, and traditions, and every action, however small, was part of a continuous, timeless story. Imagine the soft glow of lamplight flickering across courtyards, the gentle hum of looms, the measured steps of women tending fires, drawing water, kneading dough, weaving cloth, and guiding children with patient care. Feel the pulse of generations passing knowledge, skill, and wisdom from mothers to daughters, from grandmothers to families, creating a seamless current that shaped the heartbeat of civilization itself. Tonight, we will drift through these meditative rhythms, absorbing the stories of labor, ritual, observation, and culture, in a calm, immersive flow that will carry you gently, continuously, and unhurriedly through hours of history, quietly yet profoundly alive. So lie back, relax, and let the story of ancient Greece carry you into a serene, uninterrupted journey through time, where every detail, every moment, and every whisper of history will guide you into a deep, peaceful, reflective sleep. In the lands of ancient Greece, where rocky hills met the sparkling sea and olive groves stretched across sunlit valleys, life unfolded slowly, measured by the rising and setting of the sun, the rhythm of work and ritual, and the quiet pulse of daily tasks. The city-states thrived in their distinct ways. Athens, with its marble temples and bustling agora, hummed with the voices of men debating philosophy, law, and politics, while women moved quietly within the walls of their homes, tending hearths, weaving cloth, and guiding children in the ways of household and society. Sparta, in contrast, was a land of discipline and endurance, where girls ran and wrestled in open fields, learning strength and resilience, preparing their bodies for the expectations of adulthood. Yet even there, the center of a woman's life remained the home, the family, and the sacred routines that marked each day. Corinth, perched along busy trade routes, carried the scent of salt, olive oil, and distant lands brought by merchants, while the women there balanced the household with skill and patience, managing kitchens, overseeing servants, and passing stories from one generation to the next. From birth, a girl's life was mapped with careful attention, her days guided by ritual, tradition, and the quiet authority of mothers and grandmothers who taught her the rhythm of domestic life, the songs of gods, and the stories of the world beyond, glimpsed only through whispered tales. Childhood was slow and deliberate, filled with lessons in obedience, precision, and care. While boys ran freely through streets and plazas, learning the arts of public life, girls remained close to the hearth, their hands moving in measured patterns as they learned to weave, cook, clean, and pray. Every sound, every smell, every touch shaped their understanding of the world. The loom hummed, the bread baked, the olive oil glimmered in vessels, and at twilight, stories of gods, heroes, and distant lands were told in soft voices that lulled the mind into reflection. The life of a girl in ancient Greece was quiet yet deeply formative, a life where each day passed like a gentle current, guiding her toward the roles she would assume as wife, mother, and keeper of household tradition. As she grew, the patterns of domestic labor became second nature. Rituals for birth, marriage, and religious observance were learned, and the stories of heroes and gods were absorbed slowly, sinking into memory. In Athens, girls learned to move gracefully, to speak softly, and to observe the boundaries of public and private life, while in Sparta, girls learned endurance, resilience, and the quiet strength to support their families and communities. The rhythm of life, whether in work, prayer, or song, was unbroken and continuous, a gentle stream that shaped character and spirit, preparing them for the long cycles of marriage, motherhood, and devotion. Daily existence was measured by the turning of the sun, the sound of water in wells, the hum of bees in gardens, and the whisper of wind through olive groves. Each moment, though small and repetitive, carried weight, teaching lessons of patience, care, and subtle influence. Festivals marked the passing of seasons, and religious rites reminded women of their sacred duties to household gods and the city alike. Yet most of life passed unnoticed beyond the home, a life of quiet diligence, of careful observation, and of endless preparation for the next stage of existence. In the warm afternoons, the daughters learned weaving and spinning, listening to tales of gods and heroes as their fingers moved rhythmically, creating cloth that would one day clothe family and neighbors, while their minds absorbed lessons of loyalty, honor, and caution. Mothers demonstrated the proper way to tend hearths, grind grain, and preserve olives, each gesture repeated until it became instinct, each lesson delivered in soft, deliberate tones that lulled the girls into calm attentiveness. As evening fell, they gathered with mothers and aunts, recounting quiet histories of ancestors, of city-states and their rulers, of battles and heroes whose deeds were recorded in epic verse. These moments, the boundaries between myth and memory blurred, forming the foundation of understanding that would guide them through life. The scent of bread, the smoke of incense, and the soft murmur of prayers to Hestia, Athena, and Demeter filled the air, creating a lull of continuity, a rhythm of life that was slow, deliberate, and soothing. Childhood passed in measured steps, each day layering knowledge and skill upon skill, preparing girls for the responsibilities of adulthood, the management of households, the guidance of younger children, and the subtle influence they would wield within the family. As they approached adolescence, they became increasingly aware of societal expectations, of marriage arrangements, and of the ways in which their movements, words, and deeds reflected upon the honor of their families. The world outside, bright with sun and bustling with activity, remained mostly inaccessible, observed only from courtyards and windows, yet the inner world of the household was vast, full of rituals, tasks, and teachings that demanded attention, patience, and reflection. The loom, the spinning wheel, the kitchen, the altar, and the courtyard formed a continuous pattern of labor and learning, each day passing like a gentle current, shaping women into keepers of tradition, guardians of culture, and silent shapers of society. In Sparta, girls ran and trained in the open fields, their laughter mingling with the rhythm of drills and exercises, their bodies growing strong as they learned resilience and endurance. Yet even in these moments of apparent freedom, the lessons of domestic skill, ritual, and preparation for family responsibilities remained ever present. Life was slow, deliberate, and immersive, a tapestry of small, repeated actions, of soft stories told in the evenings, of the subtle presence of the divine in daily life, and of the quiet shaping of character that would guide every decision, every gesture, and every relationship. The women of Greece, whether in Athens, Sparta, Corinth, or remote villages, lived lives of quiet devotion, continuous labor, and subtle influence, forming the hidden backbone of their civilizations, their stories often unspoken but deeply felt, a pulse of continuity and care that underpinned every stone, every wall, and every home. Each day moved seamlessly into the next, a slow rhythm that nurtured patience, taught responsibility, and prepared girls for the intricate and demanding roles they would assume as wives, mothers, and silent architects of the household. While the sun rose and fell, festivals and rituals marked the year, and the eternal presence of gods and ancestors reminded them that their lives, though quiet, were woven into the fabric of history, a fabric that would endure long after their hands stilled and their voices softened into memory. As women entered adulthood, the rhythms of life deepened, and the full weight of societal expectations became clear. Marriage was no longer a distant idea but a reality, carefully arranged by families to ensure alliances, security, and continuity. In Athens, a bride prepared her dowry meticulously, weaving cloth, preparing household goods, and learning the subtle art of managing servants and children. The home became her center, and every act within it carried importance. In Sparta, marriages emphasized not only alliances but the cultivation of strength, endurance, and resilience, preparing daughters to raise healthy, capable children and maintain the household with discipline. Motherhood followed quickly, and with it came new routines and responsibilities. Pregnancy was monitored carefully through domestic knowledge passed from older women, and rituals ensured the health of mother and child. Birth was often accompanied by prayer and offerings, the air filled with incense and whispered chants invoking protection from Hestia, Artemis, and other protective deities. Children were cradled, taught, and guided within the slow, deliberate rhythm of home life, and mothers learned patience and attentiveness, each day a repetition of feeding, tending, and instructing. Domestic work remained constant: baking bread, grinding grain, collecting water, tending gardens, and weaving cloth. The repetitive nature of these tasks created a meditative rhythm, a heartbeat of daily life that instilled discipline, focus, and endurance. Even in moments of leisure, women moved gently, quietly, observing, listening, and sharing knowledge with daughters and younger relatives. Religion remained central, with women performing daily rituals, tending altars, and participating in festivals that brought the family together in soft ceremonies that punctuated the slow passage of seasons. Public life was largely out of reach, yet women's influence, subtle and persistent, shaped households, guided children, and maintained continuity within the city-state. Across all regions, whether bustling Athens, disciplined Sparta, or trading Corinth, these patterns persisted, forming a continuous flow of experience that shaped identity, values, and character. Social hierarchy, law, and expectation dictated decorum, speech, and movement, yet within these boundaries women exercised quiet power, arranging households, teaching children, and preserving tradition. Daily life was structured yet gentle, repetitive yet purposeful, creating a rhythm that lulled both the mind and body into steady attention, cultivating endurance and calm. Evenings were times of reflection, storytelling, and instruction, when the younger women learned from elders the subtleties of behavior, ritual, and duty. Tales of gods and heroes were interwoven with practical lessons, embedding culture, ethics, and historical memory in a soft, hypnotic cadence. In Sparta, the combination of physical training and household duties created a unique discipline, blending strength, patience, and attentiveness. Girls grew into women with bodies capable of resilience and minds trained for observation, care, and subtle influence. Across Greece, the cycles of work, ritual, storytelling, and observation repeated daily, creating a gentle, continuous current in which life flowed unbroken. Time was measured by light and shadow, the hum of the loom, the scent of olive oil, the rhythm of kneading bread, the soft murmur of prayers, and the distant sounds of markets and streets. Each day added layers of experience, knowledge, and patience, preparing women for roles they would inhabit quietly but powerfully, the foundation of family, household, and culture. Festivals, while brief and colorful, were woven seamlessly into this rhythm, teaching decorum, skill, and social awareness. Even rare glimpses into public life were observed indirectly through windows, courtyards, or stories from male relatives, yet they informed behavior, expectation, and awareness. Life was immersive, deliberate, and continuous, a tapestry of small acts, quiet labor, and measured observation that shaped character and identity. Women moved through the world with calm attention, performing duties with precision and patience, learning the soft but enduring power of influence that would define their roles across decades. Each sunrise brought new tasks, new prayers, and new opportunities for quiet reflection. Each sunset returned them to the warmth of the hearth, the stories of ancestors, the soft voices of mothers and grandmothers, and the gentle rhythm of daily life that lulled the mind into calm attentiveness. Through centuries, these routines persisted, an unbroken flow of labor, care, devotion, and subtle authority, shaping households, children, and society itself. The women of ancient Greece moving silently yet powerfully through the currents of history, their lives measured, deliberate, and profound, echoing softly through the generations that followed. Beyond the immediate routines of household and family, women's lives were also defined by the quiet patterns of social and religious obligations that wove a steady rhythm through each day and season. Temples and altars were never far from sight, and daily offerings, prayers, and small rituals provided a meditative cadence to life, a bridge between the tangible labor of the hearth and the unseen world of the divine. In Athens, women maintained household shrines to Hestia, the guardian of the hearth, carefully arranging oil, incense, and small figurines with hands accustomed to precision, each movement deliberate and measured, echoing the care and attention that guided every aspect of domestic life. In Sparta, these rituals were accompanied by the discipline of physical training, the balance of strength and piety shaping both body and mind, preparing women for motherhood, household management, and communal responsibility. As they matured, women observed and participated in the festivals and sacred ceremonies of their cities, learning through repetition and gentle instruction the ways in which prayer, movement, and gesture communicated devotion and respect. The seasonal festivals, celebrations of harvest, fertility, and the gods, brought brief bursts of public life into the otherwise private world of women, offering glimpses of music, dance, and communal gathering. Yet even these moments were guided by careful teaching: how to walk, how to hold one's hands, how to speak softly, how to observe without intrusion, how to participate without breaking the rhythm of propriety. Children and daughters accompanied mothers, learning these lessons naturally, absorbing the movements and cadence of ritual, the soft tones of invocation, and the deliberate pace of ceremonial action. In every household, daily labor continued alongside these spiritual observances. Bread was kneaded, olives crushed and pressed, cloth woven, water drawn, fires tended, and meals prepared. Each task was imbued with care and repetition, transforming routine work into a quiet meditation, a way of shaping patience and focus while serving family and community. Storytelling remained central to evenings, when women gathered after the sun sank low, and shadows stretched across courtyards and halls. Myths of gods, goddesses, heroes, and ancestors were told in low, soothing tones, intertwining cultural knowledge, moral lessons, and historical memory in a gentle, continuous flow. These stories, repeated nightly, became part of the rhythm of life, shaping identity, imparting wisdom, and providing a calm narrative for reflection and understanding. In Sparta, the dual rhythm of domestic duties and physical exercise created a life of balance, each day a continuous pattern of movement, labor, and contemplation, while in Corinth and other city-states, the influence of trade and commerce added subtle complexity as women adapted domestic routines to include managing household supplies, overseeing servants, and preparing for visitors. Life was unhurried but purposeful, each gesture, each action, and each story contributing to the slow accumulation of knowledge, skill, and endurance. Women observed the changing seasons, the flowering of plants, the migration of birds, and the phases of the moon, learning through observation the timing of planting, harvesting, and preparing food, as well as the auspicious moments for ritual and festival. In the quiet hours before dawn, some would rise to perform private prayers or offerings, the soft scent of burning oil mingling with the cool morning air, creating a sensory rhythm that complemented the labor and learning of the day. Meals were shared quietly, children fed, fires tended, and the work of the household continued seamlessly, each day blending into the next with a gentle, unbroken continuity. Even as women aged, the pattern persisted, evolving as roles shifted from daughters to wives to mothers and grandmothers, each stage of life layered upon the previous, each day imbued with routine, reflection, and quiet influence. The wisdom of elders guided younger women, teaching not only practical skills but also the art of patience, observation, and subtle authority, ensuring that culture, tradition, and household management passed smoothly from one generation to the next. Through this unbroken rhythm, women became the silent architects of society, their labor, devotion, and careful attention forming the foundation upon which families, households, and city-states thrived. And as the sun set each day, casting golden light across courtyards, hills, and fields, the women of Greece moved within their carefully measured worlds, their actions slow, deliberate, and purposeful, weaving a continuous tapestry of care, ritual, and quiet strength, their lives a seamless flow of experience, shaping the present and preserving the past in every movement, gesture, and whispered story. As women moved fully into the responsibilities of adult life, the household became both their domain and their classroom, a space where every action, no matter how small, carried meaning and purpose. Each morning began with quiet tasks, sweeping floors, preparing water, grinding grain, tending fires, and arranging food and supplies for the day ahead. The repetitive rhythm of these chores created a meditative cadence, a gentle heartbeat that structured time and instilled patience. Mothers taught daughters to follow these rhythms with care, demonstrating each motion slowly and deliberately, ensuring that the knowledge of household management, preservation of food, and care of children passed seamlessly from one generation to the next. In Athens, women were rarely seen in public spaces, yet within the home they exercised subtle influence, guiding the behavior of children, overseeing servants, and maintaining the family's honor and reputation. In Sparta, daily life blended domestic care with physical training, producing women who were strong, attentive, and disciplined, capable of nurturing and instructing with equal focus. Across city-states, religious observance threaded through each day. Small offerings to Hestia at the hearth, prayers to Athena for wisdom, and devotion to Demeter for the harvest imbued ordinary labor with sacred significance. Rituals punctuated repetitive work, providing both spiritual grounding and gentle variation to the monotony of daily life. Festivals, occurring at intervals throughout the year, added moments of color, sound, and communal experience, yet even these were approached with deliberate attention to propriety, the teaching of ritual, and observation of social hierarchy. Daughters learned by watching elders, absorbing both practical skill and social understanding in quiet, continuous lessons. Storytelling remained central to the evenings. Women gathered in soft candlelight to recount myths, legends, and family history, embedding cultural knowledge, moral guidance, and ethical reflection in slow, deliberate narratives. These stories shaped perception, imparted values, and connected each woman to her ancestors, to the city, and to the divine, creating a continuous flow of memory and tradition. Physical labor, prayer, storytelling, and observation formed a seamless pattern, each reinforcing the other, each teaching patience, endurance, and subtle authority. The passage of time was marked not by clocks but by light, sound, and natural rhythms. The rising and setting of the sun, the hum of bees, the flow of water in wells, the changing seasons, and the cycles of planting and harvesting. Even the simplest tasks, kneading bread, weaving cloth, tending gardens, became acts of meditation, moments in which the mind and body were aligned, prepared for reflection and gentle attention. As women aged, the roles of daughter, wife, and mother gradually shifted into mentorship. As grandmothers taught the next generation the careful art of household management, the subtleties of ritual, and the rhythm of continuous labor. The accumulated knowledge of decades became a quiet authority, shaping households, guiding children, and preserving culture and tradition. In moments of rare leisure, women gathered in small groups, quietly sharing thoughts, recounting stories, singing gentle songs, or observing the movements of nature, drawing inspiration and reflection from the subtle patterns of the world around them. Life remained continuous, unhurried, and immersive, with each repetition deepening skill, character, and awareness. Each sunrise and sunset, each flicker of candlelight, each murmur of prayer, and each hum of the loom contributed to a rhythm that sustained both the household and the soul. Through labor, ritual, and quiet observation, women maintained the pulse of society, their daily existence forming the invisible structure that supported family, community, and culture. And as the night stretched its darkness across the hills, homes glowed with soft light, the hum of domestic work mingling with the gentle cadence of prayers and storytelling, creating a meditative atmosphere in which the women of Greece moved slowly, deliberately, and gracefully through their days, their lives a continuous, unbroken tapestry of care, devotion, and subtle power, a rhythm that would endure quietly, persistently, and profoundly across generations. As the years progressed, women became the central anchors of their households, the unseen architects of daily life whose hands shaped the rhythm, order, and continuity of generations. Children grew under their guidance, learning the cadence of chores, the rituals of prayer, and the soft, deliberate patterns of storytelling that connected them to ancestors, gods, and city alike. In Athens, women's influence, though largely confined to private spaces, was profound. Every meal prepared, every garment woven, every instruction to children carried lessons in patience, discipline, and societal harmony. Sparta's women, by contrast, moved with a stronger, more visible presence. Their strength and endurance mirrored in their households, their physical training integrated seamlessly with the domestic responsibilities that would later define their adult lives. Across all city-states, the daily rhythm was deliberate, meditative, and immersive, blending labor, observation, ritual, and reflection into a seamless whole. Each day, from dawn's first light to the soft glow of evening lamps, followed a measured pattern. Tending fires, drawing water, grinding grain, baking bread, weaving textiles, preparing meals, caring for children, and attending to sacred rites. Each action was deliberate, each repetition reinforcing skill, endurance, and patience, each moment quietly teaching lessons that would endure across decades. Festivals and religious ceremonies punctuated these routines, offering moments of communal observation, gentle music, ritualized movement, and quiet celebration. Yet even these bursts of public life were absorbed with careful attention, teaching decorum, timing, and the art of participation. Storytelling remained a central thread. In the evenings, soft voices recounted myths, epic tales, and family history, weaving cultural knowledge, moral guidance, and gentle instruction into a continuous current that lulled minds into reflection and calm. The weaving of daily tasks and evening narratives created a rhythm that was both practical and meditative, grounding women in their roles while simultaneously connecting them to the expansive traditions and myths of their culture. Observation became a critical skill. Daughters learned not only through direct instruction but by watching elders manage the home, conduct rituals, and interact with the world. Every subtle gesture, every carefully timed action, every soft word of instruction was absorbed, becoming a part of the slow, unbroken rhythm of life. Physical labor and spiritual devotion intertwined seamlessly, each reinforcing the other. The hum of the loom, the scent of olive oil, the warmth of baking bread, and the soft murmur of prayers created a sensory landscape that both guided and comforted. Through decades, this continuous pattern shaped endurance, patience, reflection, and subtle authority, equipping women to manage households, guide children, and preserve the intricate tapestry of culture and tradition. Even as they aged, the cycles of daily work, ritual, observation, and storytelling continued, each repetition deepening skill, knowledge, and connection. Grandmothers became mentors, their accumulated wisdom shared quietly, embedded in the rhythm of chores, the cadence of stories, and the gentle corrections of children learning for the first time. Across Greece, life moved with a deliberate, immersive pace, unbroken by haste, defined by continuity, and guided by the soft, persistent hand of women whose labor, patience, and devotion sustained households, families, and society itself. The years flowed like a gentle current, each day merging into the next, each action blending seamlessly with the previous, creating a continuous, immersive narrative of domestic, spiritual, and social life that echoed the enduring values of care, diligence, and subtle influence. As night deepened, households glowed with soft lamplight, fires flickered, looms hummed, children rested, and women whispered stories and prayers, completing another cycle in the quiet, deliberate, and immersive rhythm of life that had been their inheritance, their responsibility, and their quiet legacy, a rhythm that would continue unbroken through generations, a slow, comforting heartbeat of civilization. In the quiet moments of each day, women found space for reflection, a gentle pause between chores, rituals, and the guidance of children. The rhythm of life, though structured and continuous, allowed for small insights, observations of nature, and soft contemplation of the world beyond their walls. The sounds of the city, merchants calling, animals stirring, the distant clang of bronze from temples, blended with the hum of domestic work, creating a layered soundscape that was both grounding and soothing. In Athens, even as women remained largely within the home, they understood the patterns of the city, the flow of the marketplace, and the cycles of civic life, absorbing knowledge indirectly and quietly preparing to guide the household with awareness of the world outside. In Sparta, women walked more freely, their presence felt in courtyards, training grounds, and ceremonial spaces, yet every movement remained deliberate, measured, and purposeful. Across Greece, observation was as important as action. A glance, a gesture, a word carefully chosen, all became part of the subtle education that shaped behavior, skill, and authority. Daily labor continued in a seamless current, grinding grain into flour, kneading dough, tending fires, weaving threads into cloth, and preparing meals. Each task repeated slowly, rhythmically, allowing the mind to wander into reflection, imagination, and soft storytelling. Even the simplest chores carried layered significance, teaching attention, patience, and care while embedding the larger patterns of culture and family life. Religious rituals interwove with daily tasks, providing structure and spiritual grounding. Offerings at the hearth, prayers to household deities, and preparation for seasonal festivals created a cycle of devotion that complemented practical work. The repetition of these actions, both sacred and mundane, created a continuous meditative flow, a rhythm that nurtured endurance, calm, and reflection. Storytelling remained central to evenings. As the sun set and shadows lengthened across courtyards, women gathered, recounting myths of gods and goddesses, heroes and ancestors, lessons of morality and courage, and tales of distant lands. These narratives were delivered in measured tones, flowing without interruption, gently guiding listeners into reflection, memory, and imagination. Children absorbed these stories, learning not only cultural knowledge but also the rhythm of speech, movement, and patience, integrating narrative with daily life. The quiet repetition of household work, prayer, and storytelling created a seamless current, reinforcing skill, endurance, and subtle influence. Women aged within this framework, transitioning gracefully from daughters to wives, mothers, and eventually grandmothers, each stage layering wisdom, guidance, and continuity upon the next. Grandmothers oversaw younger women, imparting instruction through demonstration, story, and gentle correction, ensuring that each new generation inherited the full rhythm of life, the practices of labor, devotion, and observation that defined their culture. Across city-states, this unbroken flow formed the backbone of society. The women's careful attention to domestic detail, religious observance, and storytelling sustained households, preserved culture, and guided children into competent adulthood. Even in rare moments of rest, women observed nature, the flight of birds, the phases of the moon, the turning of seasons, and drew inspiration, calm, and rhythm from these patterns. Life moved unhurriedly, yet with purpose, each day a repetition of the last, each task performed with deliberate attention, each story told with gentle cadence. Through centuries, this continuous rhythm, labor, prayer, observation and storytelling, shaped endurance, patience, subtle authority and reflection. The women of Greece, moving slowly and deliberately through their worlds, formed the quiet but unbroken heartbeat of civilization, their lives a seamless tapestry of care, devotion, and continuous influence that persisted across generations, unobserved by the bustling streets but essential to the flow of society. And as night deepened, lamps glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed, children slept, and women whispered soft prayers and stories, each cycle of the day blending into the next, a gentle, continuous, immersive rhythm that held the past, present, and future together in a steady, comforting pulse. As seasons passed, the subtle rhythms of life deepened, layering experience, knowledge, and reflection into every movement, gesture, and thought. The turning of the year, marked by festivals, planting and harvest, and the cycles of the moon, guided daily routines with gentle inevitability. In Athens, women's awareness of the broader city life grew as they observed markets, temple ceremonies, and the movements of family and neighbors, translating what they saw into guidance, instruction, and the organization of their households. Sparta's women maintained their physical strength alongside domestic skill, moving with assurance, endurance, and attention, guiding children, managing homes, and preparing for rituals with the seamless integration of body, mind, and tradition. Corinth's trading connections introduced occasional variations in domestic life, new foods, textiles, and customs. But the essential rhythm of labor, prayer, and observation remained steady and unbroken. Daily tasks flowed in continuous patterns, grinding grain into fine flour, kneading dough with precise repetition, tending fires in kitchens, weaving cloth with careful rhythm, preparing meals, and overseeing the care of children. Each action became meditative, allowing reflection, imagination, and the absorption of wisdom to unfold naturally, creating a calm, immersive awareness of both immediate tasks and the broader cycles of life. Religion remained central. The quiet offering of oil, incense, or small food to household gods provided moments of connection, reflection, and continuity. Rituals were repeated daily and seasonally, embedding devotion into the cadence of life. Even festivals with music, dance, and communal gathering were absorbed slowly, the lessons of movement, voice, and participation internalized with patience and attentiveness. Storytelling continued as a central thread. In the evenings, as light dimmed and fires flickered, women gathered with children and younger relatives, recounting myths of gods and goddesses, heroes, and the deeds of ancestors. These stories wove together moral guidance, cultural knowledge, and the rhythm of speech and reflection. Children absorbed lessons not only through words but through the gentle cadence, repetition, and tone, shaping their understanding of family, society, and their place within it. Physical labor, ritual, observation, and storytelling merged into an unbroken flow, a continuous, immersive rhythm of life that trained endurance, patience, subtle authority, and reflection. Women aged within this cycle, transitioning gracefully into mentorship, passing their knowledge to daughters and granddaughters through demonstration, guidance, and storytelling. The wisdom of decades accumulated quietly, shaping households, guiding children, and preserving culture across generations. Day flowed into the next seamlessly. Dawn brought tasks, prayer, observation, and reflection. Evening brought storytelling, preparation, and quiet meditation. Even in rare moments of rest, women observed the world around them, the growth of plants, the movements of animals, the patterns of clouds, and drew calm, insight, and rhythm from these subtle cues. Life moved slowly but with purpose, each repetition deepening skill, endurance, reflection, and subtle influence. Across all city-states, this continuous pattern formed the backbone of society, the invisible pulse sustaining households, families, and communities. The women of Greece moved through this steady rhythm with grace, their lives an unbroken tapestry of care, devotion, labor, observation, and gentle authority, linking generations past, present, and future. And as night descended, fires glimmered in courtyards, lamps cast soft light, looms hummed, children slept, and soft prayers and stories carried on, completing another cycle in the immersive, continuous rhythm of life, a quiet heartbeat that held together home, family, and civilization, a rhythm unbroken, enduring, and profoundly comforting. As the cycles of years continued, women's roles evolved gradually but without abrupt change, each stage of life folding seamlessly into the next. Daughters became wives, wives became mothers, and mothers became grandmothers, each transition marked by repetition, observation, and reflection. The lessons learned in childhood, patience, endurance, attention to detail, and subtle influence, deepened as responsibility grew. Each day retained its rhythm: tending fires, preparing meals, grinding grain, weaving cloth, caring for children, and performing prayers and offerings. The repetitive nature of these actions fostered calm, reflection, and meditative focus, each motion carrying embedded knowledge and unspoken wisdom. In Athens, women maintained household order with quiet authority, supervising servants, guiding children, and shaping the moral and practical education of the next generation. Sparta's women balanced domestic management with rigorous physical training, their strength mirrored in the steadiness of the household and the disciplined upbringing of children. In Corinth and other trade-centered city-states, occasional variations, new textiles, exotic foods, and distant customs added subtle layers to routines, but the overarching flow of labor, prayer, observation, and storytelling remained steady, unbroken, and immersive. Festivals, although occasional, punctuated the rhythm of life with color, song, music, and ritual. Women participated with deliberate attention, absorbing movements, gestures, and recitations, teaching daughters the art of decorum, timing, and ritual performance. Storytelling remained central to evenings. As shadows deepened and lamps glimmered, women recounted myths of gods and goddesses, epic tales of heroes and ancestors, and local histories, weaving moral guidance and cultural knowledge into slow, soothing narratives. Children and younger women absorbed lessons of ethics, observation, and subtle influence, learning through repetition, tone, and rhythm rather than formal instruction. Observation of nature complemented practical tasks. Women noted the growth of crops, the migration of birds, the phases of the moon, and seasonal changes, integrating these patterns into agricultural planning, ritual timing, and daily labor. Even simple acts like tending a garden, fetching water, or watching the sun's path reinforced awareness, patience, and attentiveness, linking household labor to the broader patterns of the world. Religion intertwined seamlessly with labor. Offerings, prayers, and sacred gestures punctuated mundane tasks, transforming work into devotion, embedding calm, reflection, and continuity into each day. Life unfolded like a gentle, unbroken current. Labor, ritual, observation, storytelling, reflection, and preparation for the next cycle. Generational knowledge passed quietly from mothers and grandmothers to daughters and granddaughters, ensuring continuity of culture, household management, and social stability. Through repetition, observation, and patient attention, women developed endurance, skill, subtle authority, and a deep understanding of the rhythms of life, their influence extending quietly but persistently through households, communities, and society. Even as age advanced, daily routines persisted with gentle adaptation. Work continued, prayers and rituals maintained connection to the divine, and storytelling nurtured imagination, reflection, and cultural memory. Life moved slowly, immersively, and deliberately, each action part of an ongoing, seamless, and comforting rhythm. Women's lives formed the quiet yet unbroken pulse of civilization, sustaining family, home, and society while embedding tradition, care, and subtle power into every gesture, repetition, and story. And as night fell, lamplight flickered across courtyards, looms hummed softly, children slept peacefully, and women whispered prayers and tales, completing another unbroken cycle in the continuous, immersive, meditative rhythm of life, a rhythm that had endured for generations and would persist through generations to come, a slow, comforting heartbeat of home, family, and civilization itself. As decades passed, women's lives deepened into a seamless, unbroken pattern of work, devotion, reflection, and storytelling, each action flowing naturally into the next. The daily cadence of tending fires, grinding grain, preparing meals, weaving cloth, and caring for children became almost meditative, each repetition layering skill, endurance, and subtle authority into the fabric of life. In Athens, women guided households with quiet wisdom, observing the rhythms of the city from courtyards and windows, shaping children's understanding of morality, order, and propriety, while ensuring the household operated smoothly and harmoniously. Sparta's women combined these domestic responsibilities with physical training, producing bodies and minds capable of strength, endurance and attentive care, shaping not only homes but the next generation of citizens with resilience and discipline. Corinthian women integrated knowledge from trade and visitors into household routines, adjusting recipes, textiles, and daily practices while maintaining the unbroken flow of ritual, labor, and storytelling. Seasons continued their slow, inevitable march, bringing planting, harvest, festivals, and sacred observances. Festivals offered moments of beauty, music, dance, and social observation, yet women participated with care and attention, absorbing subtle lessons in movement, speech, and decorum, which were later passed to daughters and younger relatives. Storytelling remained central, especially in the quiet hours of evening. As fires glimmered and lamps flickered, women narrated tales of gods and goddesses, legendary heroes, and ancestors whose deeds shaped the city-states. These narratives, slow and continuous, interwove ethics, cultural memory, and reflection, creating a gentle flow that nurtured imagination and understanding in children and young women. Observing nature remained a vital part of life. The growth of crops, the flight of birds, the changing sky, and the moon's phases were integrated into rituals, agricultural planning, and daily awareness, connecting the household to the broader world. Ritual and devotion were interlaced with labor, transforming repetitive chores into sacred practice. Prayers whispered at dawn, offerings to Hestia at the hearth, and careful attention to festival preparations infused work with purpose, reflection, and meditative rhythm. Generational knowledge passed quietly, almost imperceptibly. Mothers taught daughters, daughters observed grandmothers, and wisdom accumulated with the subtle force of time. Even in advanced age, women continued to guide households, mentor younger generations, and participate in ritual and storytelling, maintaining the continuity of culture, family, and society. The rhythm of daily life, labor, prayer, observation, storytelling, reflection, moved slowly, deliberately, and unbroken, immersing each participant in a continuous, meditative current. Each action, from the kneading of bread to the spinning of wool, from the recitation of a prayer to the soft telling of a myth, reinforced endurance, skill, attention, and subtle authority, building the foundation for families, households, and communities. Across city-states, despite differences in customs, social expectation, and physical freedom, the unbroken pattern of women's lives provided continuity, stability, and guidance for all who lived within their households. Life, though repetitive, was immersive and profound, a continuous flow of experience that shaped minds, bodies, and spirits while connecting individuals to the larger currents of history, society, and divine presence. And as darkness fell each night, homes glowed softly with lamplight, looms hummed, fires flickered, children slept, and women whispered prayers and stories, completing the day in a rhythm so gentle, continuous, and immersive that it became the heartbeat of civilization itself, a slow, enduring, and comforting flow that linked past, present, and future across the generations. As the years unfolded, women's lives continued in the quiet, unbroken rhythm that defined their existence, each day blending seamlessly into the next, each task performed with patience, attention, and care. The repetition of labor, grinding grain, kneading dough, tending fires, weaving cloth, preparing meals, and caring for children, created a steady cadence, a rhythm that nurtured endurance, skill, and subtle authority. In Athens, the management of the household required careful observation of servants, supervision of children's learning, and precise execution of daily rituals, each act performed with a calm, deliberate focus that reflected centuries of inherited wisdom. In Sparta, domestic management merged seamlessly with physical exercise, producing women whose strength, discipline, and resilience were mirrored in the households they maintained, guiding the upbringing of children and supporting community life. Corinthian households, influenced by trade and occasional visitors, introduced subtle variations in routines, yet the foundational rhythm of work, ritual, and observation remained continuous and immersive. Seasonal cycles provided structure. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation dictated the pace of life, each task imbued with meaning and careful attention. Festivals offered brief moments of color, music, and communal interaction, yet participation was always guided by instruction, observation, and repetition, teaching timing, gesture, and decorum to daughters and younger women. Even in the quiet hours, observation of nature informed household practice and ritual. The phases of the moon guided planting and offerings, the movement of birds and animals provided insight into seasonal change, and the cycles of the sun marked daily routines. Storytelling remained central to the evenings. As lamps glimmered and fires flickered, women narrated myths of gods, heroic deeds, and family history, weaving moral guidance, cultural memory, and ethical reflection into a continuous narrative that gently absorbed listeners into contemplation. Children and young women absorbed not only the content but also the rhythm, tone, and cadence of these stories, integrating them into their understanding of society, family, and their own emerging roles. Ritual and devotion intertwined with daily labor, transforming repetitive tasks into moments of reflection, meditation, and sacred connection. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter became embedded in daily patterns, creating a seamless flow of work, spiritual practice, and cultural transmission. Knowledge and wisdom passed quietly from generation to generation. Mothers instructed daughters, grandmothers guided mothers, and daughters absorbed lessons through careful observation and gentle repetition. The cycles of domestic labor, religious observance, and storytelling formed a continuous current, shaping endurance, reflection, subtle influence, and understanding. Across city-states, despite local variations in customs and social expectation, women's lives shared the same steady rhythm, providing continuity, stability, and guidance to families, households, and communities. Life moved deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each day a repetition of the last, each task an opportunity for reflection and cultivation of skill and patience. And as night deepened, lamplight glimmered in courtyards, fires flickered softly, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and women whispered prayers and stories, completing another day in the continuous, immersive, meditative flow of life, a rhythm that quietly yet profoundly held together home, family, and society, linking past, present, and future in a slow, comforting heartbeat that persisted across generations. As the cycles of life continued, women's daily existence became a deeply ingrained rhythm of labor, devotion, observation, and storytelling, a seamless flow that shaped households, guided children, and preserved culture. Each morning began with the familiar cadence of domestic work: tending fires, drawing water, grinding grain, kneading dough, preparing meals, and weaving cloth, each task performed deliberately, each repetition reinforcing skill, endurance, and patience. In Athens, women quietly oversaw the operation of the household, instructing daughters in practical and moral lessons, supervising servants, and ensuring that all routines aligned with societal expectations, subtly guiding the family while remaining largely unseen in public life. Sparta's women combined this domestic mastery with physical strength, moving through the household and courtyards with steady purpose, their presence a blend of discipline, grace, and authority that prepared them to manage children, households, and ceremonial duties with equal skill. In Corinth, women incorporated the occasional influence of trade and visitors into daily routines, adapting meals, textiles, and rituals while maintaining the continuous, immersive flow of household life. Seasonal changes dictated patterns of labor, ritual, and observation, weaving the cycles of nature into domestic life. Festivals punctuated these routines, offering moments of music, dance, ritual, and reflection, yet participation was always measured, observed, and absorbed carefully, teaching daughters timing, gesture, and social awareness through example. Storytelling remained the cornerstone of evening life. As lamplight glimmered and fires flickered, women recounted myths of gods, heroic deeds, and family history, blending ethical guidance, cultural memory, and narrative rhythm into continuous tales that soothed, educated, and connected listeners to generations past. Children absorbed lessons not only through words but through cadence, repetition, and gentle observation, internalizing cultural norms, moral guidance, and the subtle rhythms of social and domestic life. Daily labor and ritual formed a seamless pattern. Spinning, weaving, baking, tending children, offering prayers, observing the changing seasons, and performing festival preparations became intertwined, each action reinforcing endurance, attentiveness, and reflective awareness. Generational wisdom flowed quietly, passed from grandmothers to mothers and from mothers to daughters, ensuring continuity of tradition, household management, and cultural knowledge. Even in advanced age, women continued to guide households, mentor younger generations, and participate in ritual and storytelling, maintaining the steady, immersive current of life. Observation of nature complemented domestic labor and ritual, connecting the household to broader rhythms of the world. The phases of the moon guided planting and ritual timing, the movement of animals informed seasonal awareness, and the turning of the sun marked daily cycles. Life moved deliberately, immersively, and unbroken, each repetition deepening skill, reflection, and subtle authority. Across city-states, these rhythms formed the foundation of society, linking past, present, and future through the quiet, persistent labor, devotion, and guidance of women. And as night descended, courtyards glimmered with lamplight, fires flickered, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and women whispered prayers and stories, completing another continuous, immersive cycle in the meditative rhythm of life, a rhythm that sustained households, culture, and civilization across generations, slow, steady, and profoundly comforting. As years passed and generations turned, the rhythm of women's lives in ancient Greece deepened into an unbroken meditative flow, each day blending seamlessly into the next. Morning light marked the start of familiar routines, tending the hearth, drawing water from wells, grinding grain into fine flour, kneading dough with steady hands, weaving cloth with careful precision, preparing meals, and tending to children with gentle guidance. Each repetition reinforced skill, endurance, and patience, forming the foundation of domestic life and creating a subtle authority that shaped households quietly but persistently. In Athens, women's oversight of the home was meticulous and deliberate, ensuring that children learned both practical and moral lessons, that servants performed tasks efficiently, and that the household operated in harmony with societal expectations, all while remaining largely invisible in public life. Spartan women integrated strength and discipline into these domestic roles, their physical training enhancing endurance and resilience, allowing them to manage households, guide children, and participate in sacred rituals with poise and authority. In Corinth, exposure to trade and visitors introduced occasional variations, yet the continuity of daily routines, labor, prayer, observation, and storytelling remained immersive and unbroken. Seasonal cycles shaped the rhythm of life, dictating planting, harvesting, and festival preparation, while religious observances, both daily and seasonal, provided spiritual grounding. Festivals offered moments of music, dance, ritual, and social observation, but participation was deliberate, measured, and absorbed through careful attention, teaching daughters the nuances of decorum, timing, and social awareness. Storytelling remained central to evening life, as women gathered in soft lamplight or by flickering fires to recount myths of gods, heroic deeds, and family history, weaving moral guidance, cultural memory, and reflection into continuous narratives. Children and younger women absorbed these lessons through repetition, tone, and observation, internalizing both content and rhythm, learning the subtleties of culture, morality, and household management. The seamless interplay of domestic work, ritual, observation, and storytelling created a continuous, immersive rhythm, shaping endurance, focus, and subtle authority. Knowledge flowed quietly from grandmothers to mothers and from mothers to daughters, ensuring the continuity of tradition. Culture and household expertise. Observation of nature remained integral. The movement of celestial bodies guided planting and rituals, the behavior of animals informed seasonal awareness, and subtle shifts in light and weather influenced the timing of daily labor. Life was deliberate, immersive, and unhurried, each action forming part of a continuous current that trained skill, patience, reflection, and gentle power. Across city-states, these patterns formed the quiet backbone of society, sustaining families, households, and communities while preserving the threads of culture, tradition, and moral guidance. Even as age advanced, women continued to manage homes, instruct younger generations, participate in rituals, and tell stories, maintaining the meditative rhythm of life. And as night deepened, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed softly, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories were whispered, completing another continuous cycle in the immersive, unbroken, and gentle rhythm of existence, a slow, comforting heartbeat that carried the essence of civilization through generations, blending the past, present, and future into a seamless, enduring flow. As decades unfolded, the lives of women in ancient Greece became a continuous, immersive tapestry of work, devotion, reflection, and storytelling, each action flowing into the next with deliberate calm and measured rhythm. From dawn's first light, the household awakened to gentle motion. Fires were stoked, water drawn from wells, grain ground into fine flour, dough kneaded slowly, cloth woven with precision, meals prepared carefully, and children guided with soft, deliberate instruction. Each repetition reinforced patience, skill, and subtle authority, forming the steady backbone of domestic life. In Athens, women quietly orchestrated the household, supervising servants, teaching children practical and moral lessons, and maintaining harmony, all while largely unseen in the public sphere. Spartan women blended this domestic oversight with physical training, cultivating strength, endurance, and resilience, ensuring the household operated efficiently and that children were raised with discipline and attentiveness. In Corinth, domestic routines incorporated occasional new influences from trade and travelers, yet the immersive flow of labor, ritual, observation, and storytelling remained continuous, unbroken, and meditative. Seasonal cycles dictated the rhythm of life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation created a natural cadence that merged seamlessly with daily domestic tasks. Festivals punctuated this rhythm with music, dance, ritual, and communal observation, yet women approached each with careful attention, absorbing lessons of timing, gesture, and social conduct that would be passed to daughters and younger relatives. Evening storytelling anchored the day, as women gathered near flickering fires or glimmering lamps to recount myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family histories. Narratives flowed slowly, weaving cultural knowledge, ethical guidance, and reflection into continuous, hypnotic patterns that nurtured imagination and moral understanding. Children learned through repetition and observation, internalizing the subtle rhythms of speech, movement, and ethical conduct, while women of all ages absorbed lessons of patience, attentiveness, and subtle authority. Rituals intertwined with labor, transforming repetitive household tasks into acts of devotion. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, seasonal rites of Demeter, and preparation for festivals embedded spiritual reflection into daily work. Generational knowledge passed quietly and continuously from grandmothers to mothers, and from mothers to daughters, ensuring continuity of tradition, household management, and culture. Observation of nature complemented practical life and ritual. Phases of the moon guided planting and offerings, animal behavior indicated seasonal changes, and the sun's movement dictated daily routines. Life moved deliberately and immersively, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, reflection, and subtle influence. Across all city-states, the quiet, persistent rhythm of women's lives formed the unseen structure that sustained households, families, and society, linking generations past, present, and future. Even in advanced age, women maintained their roles as mentors, guides, ritual participants, and storytellers, preserving the immersive, meditative flow of life. As night deepened, lamplight flickered softly, fires glimmered, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and gentle prayers and stories whispered through the air, completing another day in the continuous, unbroken rhythm of life, a calm, immersive heartbeat that carried culture, tradition, and civilization forward, slow, deliberate, and profoundly comforting across generations. As the final hours of the day and the cycles of life continued, women moved with quiet grace through the rhythm that had shaped generations. Every task, whether tending fires, drawing water, grinding grain, kneading dough, weaving cloth, preparing meals, or guiding children, flowed naturally into the next, each repetition reinforcing endurance, skill, patience, and subtle authority. In Athens, women's careful observation and guidance ensured that households remained harmonious, that children absorbed practical and moral lessons, and that the household functioned as a microcosm of society itself. Spartan women, blending domestic oversight with physical training, embodied strength, resilience, and discipline, guiding both household and children with measured care. In Corinth and other trade-centered city-states, small variations from travel and commerce enriched domestic life, yet the unbroken rhythm of work, prayer, observation, and storytelling remained immersive, continuous, and deeply meditative. Seasonal changes marked the flow of life, influencing planting, harvest, festivals, and rituals, creating a cadence that merged seamlessly with the unhurried pace of domestic tasks. Festivals, though intermittent, brought brief moments of music, dance, ritual, and social interaction, absorbed through careful attention and passed on to younger generations as lessons in gesture, decorum, and timing. Storytelling remained the centerpiece of evening life. Tales of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recounted in slow, continuous narratives, weaving together cultural knowledge, moral guidance, and reflective meditation. Children absorbed not only the content but also the cadence, tone, and rhythm of speech, integrating lessons into their understanding of family, society, and the world. Ritual and devotion intertwined with everyday labor, transforming repetition into meditation. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, seasonal rites of Demeter, and preparation for festivals blended the spiritual with the practical. Knowledge passed quietly across generations as grandmothers instructed mothers and mothers taught daughters, ensuring the continuity of culture, domestic expertise, and moral guidance. Observation of nature remained essential, linking households to broader rhythms. The sun's arc, the phases of the moon, animal behavior, and seasonal shifts guided labor, rituals, and reflection. Life flowed deliberately, unhurriedly, and immersively, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, understanding, and quiet authority. Across city-states, this persistent rhythm formed the invisible, yet essential pulse of society, sustaining families, communities, and the cultural fabric that connected past, present, and future. Even as age advanced, women maintained their roles as guides, storytellers, and mentors, their lives a seamless, continuous tapestry of labor, devotion, observation, and reflection. As night fully enveloped the land, lamplight flickered softly, fires glimmered warmly, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories flowed quietly through courtyards and homes. The day's cycle concluded yet merged effortlessly with the next, creating an enduring, meditative rhythm, a slow, immersive heartbeat that had guided generations, preserved culture, and sustained civilization itself. And in this calm, unbroken flow of life, the legacy of women persisted, their quiet labor, devotion, and wisdom echoing gently through time, a continuous, soothing, and profoundly comforting current that carried the past, present, and future together in harmony, completing the epic rhythm of human life with grace, patience, and enduring strength. As the first light of dawn touched the hills and rooftops of ancient Greece, the quiet rhythm of daily life began to stir, a seamless flow of motion, thought, and reflection that would carry through the hours in meditative continuity. Women rose with the sun, their movements slow, deliberate, and precise, tending fires, drawing water, grinding grain into fine flour, kneading dough for bread, weaving cloth, preparing meals, and guiding children through gentle instruction, each task performed with care, repetition, and an awareness that embedded skill, patience, and subtle authority into the very fabric of domestic life. In Athens, the household was a carefully managed microcosm of society, and women oversaw its operation with quiet wisdom, instructing daughters in practical and moral lessons, supervising servants, and maintaining harmony while observing the broader rhythms of the city from the relative privacy of courtyards and windows. Sparta, by contrast, integrated physical training into the daily life of women, blending strength, endurance, and discipline with domestic oversight, ensuring that the household operated efficiently and that children learned the values of resilience, responsibility, and attentive care. Corinthian women, influenced by trade and interaction with travelers, adapted domestic routines subtly, incorporating new foods, textiles, and occasional customs, yet always within the continuous, immersive pattern of labor, ritual, observation, and storytelling that defined life. The rhythm of seasons shaped every aspect of existence. Planting, tending, harvesting, and preparing for festivals intertwined with daily labor, weaving nature's cadence into human life. Festivals brought color, music, and communal gathering, yet women approached each with careful attention, absorbing lessons of timing, gesture, and social etiquette, and passing these on to daughters and younger relatives with patient demonstration and gentle guidance. Storytelling anchored the evenings as soft lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recounted in a continuous, immersive flow, blending cultural memory, moral reflection, and narrative rhythm into a hypnotic current that nurtured imagination and understanding. Children absorbed lessons not only through words but through cadence, repetition, and observation, integrating the rhythms of speech, movement, and moral guidance into their own development. Daily labor and ritual intertwined seamlessly, each task becoming meditative, whether spinning thread, weaving cloth, baking bread, tending children, or performing sacred gestures. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter were integrated into domestic routines, embedding spiritual reflection into the ordinary flow of life. Generational knowledge passed quietly as grandmothers instructed mothers, and mothers guided daughters, preserving skills, traditions, and ethical understanding across decades. Observation of nature reinforced domestic and ritual life. The moon's phases dictated planting and offerings, the sun's path structured the day, and the behavior of animals indicated seasonal shifts, linking households to the broader world. Life was immersive, deliberate, and unhurried, each repetition reinforcing skill, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the quiet backbone of households, families, and communities. Even as women aged, their roles persisted. Mentoring, storytelling, ritual participation, and oversight ensured continuity, stability, and cultural preservation. Across city-states, despite variation in customs, physical freedom, and trade influence, the steady, immersive rhythm of women's lives provided the pulse of civilization, connecting past, present, and future through careful repetition, attention, and devotion. Evening deepened, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed, children slept, and prayers and stories filled the quiet air, merging seamlessly with the next cycle, an unbroken rhythm that carried care, culture, and civilization forward, slow, deliberate, and profoundly comforting. As women moved through each day, their lives became an unbroken tapestry of work, devotion, observation, and storytelling, a meditation in motion, each action flowing into the next with calm, deliberate precision. Kitchens, courtyards, and shrines were orchestrated with quiet authority, each gesture, movement, and word reinforcing endurance, skill, and reflection. Daughters absorbed lessons of patience and decorum through observation, gradually assuming roles of responsibility as mothers, while grandmothers continued to pass wisdom, ensuring continuity across generations. Seasonal and celestial cycles shaped the flow of work, ritual, and reflection, guiding the timing of planting, harvest, and religious observances, seamlessly connecting human life to the broader natural world. Festivals punctuated daily rhythms with music, movement, and communal interaction, teaching the subtleties of gesture, timing, and social observance. Storytelling carried the narrative forward. Myths of gods, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories flowed without interruption, blending cultural memory, moral guidance, and reflective meditation, a gentle current that guided listeners into contemplation. Daily labor intertwined with ritual, observation, and story, each action reinforcing endurance, patience, subtle influence, and ethical understanding, a continuous immersive flow that defined life. Across city-states, women's lives formed the quiet pulse sustaining households, families, and society itself, shaping children, guiding communities, and preserving tradition. Observation of nature, careful work, ritual, and storytelling merged into a continuous meditative rhythm, each repetition deepening skill, reflection, and subtle authority. Even in advanced age, women maintained their roles as guides, storytellers, and mentors, sustaining the immersive flow of life while nurturing future generations. Night descended fully, lamplight and firelight glimmered, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and stories and prayers whispered through homes, completing another continuous cycle in the unbroken, immersive, meditative rhythm of existence. The heartbeat of civilization persisted through generations, carried in the quiet labor, devotion, and wisdom of women, an enduring, soothing, and profoundly comforting current that linked past, present, and future in harmony, completing the epic flow of life with grace, patience, and unbroken continuity. As the first light of dawn touched the hills and rooftops of ancient Greece, the quiet rhythm of daily life began to stir, a seamless flow of motion, thought, and reflection that would carry through the hours in meditative continuity. Women rose with the sun, their movements slow, deliberate, and precise, tending fires, drawing water, grinding grain into fine flour, kneading dough for bread, weaving cloth, preparing meals, and guiding children through gentle instruction, each task performed with care, repetition, and an awareness that embedded skill, patience, and subtle authority into the very fabric of domestic life. In Athens, the household was a carefully managed microcosm of society, and women oversaw its operation with quiet wisdom, instructing daughters in practical and moral lessons, supervising servants, and maintaining harmony while observing the broader rhythms of the city from the relative privacy of courtyards and windows. Sparta, by contrast, integrated physical training into the daily life of women, blending strength, endurance, and discipline with domestic oversight, ensuring that the household operated efficiently and that children learned the values of resilience, responsibility, and attentive care. Corinthian women, influenced by trade and interaction with travelers, adapted domestic routines subtly, incorporating new foods, textiles, and occasional customs, yet always within the continuous, immersive pattern of labor, ritual, observation, and storytelling that defined life. The rhythm of seasons shaped every aspect of existence. planting, tending, harvesting, and preparing for festivals intertwined with daily labor, weaving nature's cadence into human life. Festivals brought color, music, and communal gathering, yet women approached each with careful attention, absorbing lessons of timing, gesture, and social etiquette, and passing these on to daughters and younger relatives with patient demonstration and gentle guidance. Storytelling anchored the evenings as soft lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recounted in a continuous, immersive flow, blending cultural memory, moral reflection, and narrative rhythm into a hypnotic current that nurtured imagination and understanding. Children absorbed lessons not only through words but through cadence, repetition, and observation, integrating the rhythms of speech, movement, and moral guidance into their own development. Daily labor and ritual intertwined seamlessly, each task becoming meditative, whether spinning thread, weaving cloth, baking bread, tending children, or performing sacred gestures. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter were integrated into domestic routines, embedding spiritual reflection into the ordinary flow of life. Generational knowledge passed quietly as grandmothers instructed mothers, and mothers guided daughters, preserving skills, traditions, and ethical understanding across decades. Observation of nature reinforced domestic and ritual life. The moon's phases dictated planting and offerings, the sun's path structured the day, and the behavior of animals indicated seasonal shifts, linking households to the broader world. Life was immersive, deliberate, and unhurried, each repetition reinforcing skill, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the quiet backbone of households, families, and communities. Even as the day progressed, the rhythm of women's lives remained continuous, flowing from one task to the next with deliberate calm. Kitchens, courtyards, and shrines were orchestrated with quiet authority, each motion, gesture, and word reinforcing endurance, patience, and subtle influence. In Athens, daughters observed and learned through repetition, internalizing practical and moral lessons while gradually assuming more responsibility within the household. Spartan women continued to blend domestic management with physical training, their strength mirrored in the resilience of their families and the disciplined upbringing of children. Corinthian households occasionally adapted to the arrival of travelers and trade goods, introducing subtle variations in cuisine, textiles, or rituals, yet the immersive continuity of labor, prayer, observation, and storytelling remained uninterrupted. Seasonal cycles shaped the day-to-day flow, influencing planting, harvesting, and preparation for festivals, while daily and seasonal rituals provided spiritual grounding and meditative focus. Festivals brought moments of communal music, dance, and celebration, yet women absorbed each element through observation, teaching daughters the subtleties of timing, gesture, and social decorum. Evening approached gently, and storytelling became the centerpiece of daily life. Soft lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recounted in continuous, unbroken narratives, blending cultural knowledge, ethical guidance, and reflective meditation. Children and young women absorbed lessons not only from the content but from the slow cadence, repetition, and rhythm of the narration, internalizing values, observation skills, and subtle social understanding. Labor and ritual intertwined seamlessly, transforming repetitive domestic work, spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, into moments of reflection and meditative focus. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter became integrated into the flow of life, reinforcing moral and spiritual continuity across generations. Knowledge passed quietly from grandmothers to mothers and from mothers to daughters, ensuring the unbroken transmission of household skills, cultural memory, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature was woven into daily life. The phases of the moon dictated planting and ritual timing, the sun's movement structured work and rest, and animal behaviors indicated the subtle rhythms of the seasons. Life unfolded deliberately and unhurriedly, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the invisible backbone of households, communities, and civilization. Evening deepened further, fires flickered softly, lamplight glimmered across courtyards, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and women whispered prayers and tales, completing another segment in the continuous, immersive rhythm of life, a slow, unbroken heartbeat that carried culture, tradition, and civilization forward across generations, merging past, present, and future into a seamless flow. As the evening deepened into night, the quiet currents of life continued to flow within homes and courtyards, the steady rhythm of labor, devotion, and reflection carrying through every corner. Women moved with deliberate care, finishing daily tasks while observing subtle shifts in light, temperature, and the patterns of nature, integrating each detail into the ongoing rhythm of life. In Athens, the household's harmony depended on careful supervision, teaching daughters how to manage chores, guide younger siblings, and maintain both practical and moral order within the family. Spartan women moved gracefully between domestic work and physical exercise, their bodies trained to endure and their minds attuned to careful observation, creating a seamless integration of strength, discipline, and household management. Corinthian women incorporated occasional new techniques and materials from trade or visitors, but the immersive, unbroken flow of labor, ritual, observation, and storytelling remained central, maintaining continuity across generations. Seasonal cycles and celestial patterns governed daily and yearly rhythms. Planting and harvesting aligned with the sun and moon, festivals punctuated the year, and ritual observances connected household life to the divine and natural world. Festivals, although intermittent, were deeply instructive. Music, dance, and ritual gestures were absorbed through careful attention, shaping daughters' understanding of social norms, timing, and grace. Storytelling anchored evenings and late nights, as lamplight and firelight created spaces of calm focus where myths of gods, goddesses, heroes, and ancestors were told in continuous, meditative flow. The cadence of words, repetition, and rhythm guided children and young women into understanding morality, cultural memory, and social responsibility without overt instruction. Domestic labor and ritual merged into one continuous, immersive current. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred duties became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle authority. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and rites of Demeter wove spirituality into everyday routines, embedding reflection and ethical awareness into repetitive actions. Wisdom passed quietly through generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers and mothers guided daughters, maintaining continuity of skill, culture, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature, such as the phases of the moon, the movement of the sun, and animal behavior, informed daily labor and ritual, linking human life to broader natural cycles. Life flowed deliberately, immersively, and unbroken, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, reflection, and quiet authority, forming the backbone of households, communities, and civilization. As night settled fully, lamplight glimmered in courtyards, fires flickered softly, looms hummed steadily, children slept soundly, and prayers and stories whispered through the air, completing another continuous cycle in the immersive rhythm of life, a calm and soothing heartbeat that had guided generations, preserved culture, and carried the essence of civilization forward in quiet, unbroken continuity. As days turned into months and months into years, the rhythm of women's lives in ancient Greece remained unbroken, a continuous, meditative flow that shaped households, families, and communities. Each morning began with familiar routines: tending fires, drawing water, grinding grain, kneading dough, weaving cloth, preparing meals, and gently guiding children. Every repetition embedded skill, patience, and subtle authority into daily life, forming the quiet backbone of households. In Athens, daughters observed and learned, gradually taking on more responsibility as mothers mentored them, teaching both practical tasks and moral guidance, ensuring that wisdom and experience were passed seamlessly from one generation to the next. Spartan women maintained a blend of domestic oversight and physical training, cultivating endurance, resilience, and discipline, while managing the household and guiding children with quiet authority. In Corinth, exposure to travelers and trade introduced occasional innovations in textiles, food, and ritual, yet the immersive flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained continuous and unbroken. The cycles of nature and the rhythm of the seasons shaped daily and yearly routines, guiding planting, harvesting, and festival preparation while providing opportunities for reflection and meditation. Festivals brought music, dance, and communal gatherings, yet women absorbed the details with careful attention, teaching daughters the subtleties of gesture, timing, and decorum, and ensuring that each generation understood the social and cultural rhythms of their city. Evenings were dominated by storytelling, a central pillar of cultural transmission. By the flickering fire or soft lamplight, women recounted myths of gods, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories, blending ethical guidance, cultural memory, and reflective meditation into an immersive, continuous narrative. Children and young women absorbed the lessons not only through words but through cadence, repetition, and tone, internalizing both content and rhythm, shaping understanding, character, and social awareness. Daily labor and ritual were inseparable. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter merged spiritual life with practical tasks, reinforcing moral reflection and continuity. Knowledge passed quietly across generations, with grandmothers instructing mothers and mothers teaching daughters, ensuring continuity of domestic skill, cultural understanding, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature. The phases of the moon, the sun's movement, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior linked the household to broader natural cycles, reinforcing awareness and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the invisible yet essential pulse of households, families, and communities. Night descended fully, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories flowed quietly through homes and courtyards, completing another unbroken cycle in the immersive, meditative rhythm of life. The heartbeat of civilization persisted through these quiet actions, a slow, continuous, and comforting current that carried tradition, culture, and wisdom across generations. With each passing day, the unbroken rhythm of women's lives continued to flow, a meditative current that sustained households, nurtured children, and preserved the essence of culture. Mornings unfolded with quiet precision. Fires tended and kindled, water drawn from wells, grain ground into flour, dough kneaded with steady hands, cloth woven with care, meals prepared thoughtfully, and children guided gently, each act reinforcing patience, skill, and subtle authority. In Athens, daughters observed mothers and grandmothers, gradually assuming greater responsibility, learning not only practical tasks but also lessons of ethics, moral judgment, and household harmony. Spartan women seamlessly integrated domestic oversight with physical endurance, moving through the household and courtyards with strength, resilience, and measured authority, preparing children and the home for the discipline of society. Corinthian households absorbed occasional new influences from trade and travelers, novel textiles, foods, and rituals, but the continuous, immersive flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained uninterrupted, a steady current connecting generations. Seasonal and celestial cycles shaped the rhythm of life. The rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, the growth of crops, and the behavior of animals guided daily labor, ritual timing, and reflection. Festivals provided brief, luminous pauses within this flow, moments of music, dance, and communal participation. Yet women observed each element with care, teaching daughters the subtle rhythms of timing, gesture, and social decorum through observation, practice, and patient guidance. Storytelling anchored evening life, as lamplight and flickering firelight illuminated spaces where myths of gods, heroic deeds, and family history were recounted in long, continuous, hypnotic narratives. The cadence of speech, repetition, and tone guided listeners into calm reflection, shaping children's understanding of ethics, culture, and social norms while nurturing imagination and internalizing continuity. Daily labor and ritual intertwined. Spinning, weaving, baking, tending children, performing sacred gestures, and observing religious rites became immersive acts of meditation, reflection, and influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and rites of Demeter merged practical and spiritual life, embedding contemplation into the flow of household routines. Knowledge flowed quietly but powerfully across generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, ensuring the preservation of skill, wisdom, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature remained central. Moon phases guided planting and offerings, the sun marked work and rest, seasonal changes influenced labor and ritual, and animals provided subtle lessons in timing and awareness. Life was deliberate, immersive, and unhurried, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the steady heartbeat of households, families, and society. As night deepened, lamplight flickered gently across courtyards, fires glimmered softly, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered quietly, completing another segment in the continuous, immersive and meditative rhythm of life. The flow of civilization persisted silently, carried through generations by these quiet, deliberate actions, a slow, comforting, unbroken current connecting past, present, and future. As the cycles of life continued, women's days in ancient Greece moved with a seamless, meditative rhythm, each task flowing naturally into the next. Morning light stirred homes into gentle motion. Fires were stoked, water drawn, grain ground into flour, dough kneaded, cloth woven, meals prepared, and children guided with quiet attention. Each repetition embedded skill, patience, and subtle authority, creating the foundation of household life and the continuity of culture. In Athens, mothers taught daughters the practical arts of running a home, while also imparting lessons in ethics, morality, and social harmony, ensuring that knowledge flowed unbroken across generations. Spartan women blended domestic management with physical discipline, cultivating strength, endurance, and resilience, guiding children, and overseeing households with deliberate care. In Corinth, trade and interaction with travelers introduced occasional variations in textiles, foods, or rituals, yet the core rhythm of labor, prayer, observation, and storytelling remained uninterrupted and immersive. Seasonal cycles shaped the pace of life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation marked the year, while daily rituals intertwined seamlessly with practical work. Festivals, though infrequent, brought color, music, and communal interaction. Women absorbed these experiences through careful observation, teaching daughters the subtleties of gesture, timing, and social decorum, passing knowledge gently from one generation to the next. Evening storytelling anchored the household, as lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family histories were recited in slow, continuous narrative. Children absorbed lessons through repetition, cadence, and tone, internalizing ethical guidance, cultural memory, and subtle understanding of social norms. Daily work merged with ritual, transforming spinning, weaving, baking, tending children, and sacred gestures into acts of reflection, meditation, and quiet influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and rites of Demeter intertwined with practical life, embedding spirituality into daily routines. Knowledge passed quietly from grandmothers to mothers and mothers to daughters, maintaining continuity of household skill, cultural tradition, and moral instruction. Observation of nature, moon phases, sun movement, seasonal shifts, animal behavior, guided domestic and ritual life, linking the household to the broader world. Life moved deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition reinforcing endurance, patience, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the steady pulse of homes, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered softly, fires flickered, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered through the air, completing another continuous segment in the unbroken, immersive rhythm of life. A calm, soothing heartbeat carrying culture, wisdom, and civilization forward across generations. As the days and seasons continued their slow, unbroken cycles, women moved through life with a quiet grace, each action flowing seamlessly into the next, forming a continuous rhythm that guided households, children, and culture alike. The morning light stirred kitchens and courtyards into motion. Fires were tended and kindled, water drawn from wells, grain ground into flour, dough kneaded carefully, cloth woven with deliberate precision, meals prepared, and children guided with gentle instruction. Each repetition reinforced skill, patience, endurance, and subtle authority, shaping the household and maintaining the continuity of daily life. In Athens, mothers and grandmothers carefully instructed daughters, teaching practical arts, moral reflection, and social responsibility, ensuring that knowledge passed unbroken from one generation to the next. Spartan women moved seamlessly between domestic labor and physical discipline, cultivating strength, resilience, and attentiveness, while guiding children and managing the household with calm authority. Corinthian households, occasionally influenced by trade and visitors, integrated subtle innovations in textiles, foods, or rituals, but the immersive flow of labor, ritual, observation, and storytelling remained uninterrupted, a meditative current connecting generations. Seasonal and celestial rhythms guided the flow of life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation were synchronized with the movement of the sun, the phases of the moon, and the behavior of animals, embedding awareness of the natural world into domestic life. Festivals provided brief moments of music, dance, and communal celebration, yet women absorbed every detail with care, teaching daughters the subtleties of gesture, timing, and decorum, preserving social and cultural continuity. Evenings were dominated by storytelling. Soft lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family history were recited in long, continuous, hypnotic narratives. Children and young women absorbed lessons not only through content but also through cadence, repetition, and tone, internalizing ethics, culture, and social understanding. Daily labor merged seamlessly with ritual. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and quiet influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter intertwined practical and spiritual life, embedding reflection and moral awareness into every action. Generational knowledge flowed quietly but powerfully, with grandmothers instructing mothers, and mothers guiding daughters, preserving skill, culture, and wisdom across decades. Observation of nature reinforced understanding. Moon phases guided planting and ritual timing, the sun structured the day, seasonal changes influenced labor and ritual, and animals provided subtle lessons in timing, awareness, and patience. Life moved deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the steady heartbeat of households, families, and society. As night deepened fully, lamplight glimmered softly, fires flickered, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories flowed quietly through courtyards and homes, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life, a slow, comforting current that carried culture, wisdom, and civilization forward, unbroken across generations. With the passing of days and the steady march of seasons, women's lives continued in an unbroken, meditative flow, each action seamlessly transitioning into the next. Morning light gently touched kitchens, courtyards, and courtyard stone floors, stirring households into motion. Fires tended, water drawn from wells, grain ground into fine flour, dough kneaded slowly, cloth woven carefully, meals prepared, and children guided with quiet attention. Each repetition reinforced patience, skill, endurance, and subtle authority, quietly shaping the household and preserving the continuity of culture. In Athens, mothers and grandmothers instructed daughters in both practical arts and moral reflection, ensuring knowledge and tradition passed unbroken through generations. Spartan women combined domestic management with physical discipline, their strength and resilience mirrored in the household's orderly rhythm, guiding children and maintaining the home with quiet authority. Corinthian households occasionally integrated small innovations from travelers or trade, introducing subtle variations in textiles, foods, or ritual practices, yet the continuous, immersive flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained uninterrupted, forming a seamless current connecting generations. Seasonal cycles and celestial rhythms guided the pace of life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation aligned with the sun, the moon's phases, and animal behavior, embedding observation and awareness into domestic routines. Festivals punctuated the year with music, dance, and communal gatherings, yet women absorbed these moments through careful observation, teaching daughters the subtleties of timing, gesture, and social decorum, ensuring the continuity of cultural and social understanding. Evening storytelling anchored the household's rhythm, as lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family history were told in long, hypnotic narratives. Children absorbed lessons through repetition, tone, and cadence, internalizing ethics, cultural memory, and social awareness. Daily labor merged seamlessly with ritual. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter intertwined spiritual and practical life, embedding reflection and moral continuity into daily routines. Knowledge passed quietly through generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, cultural memory, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature, moon phases, sun movement, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior linked households to the broader world, reinforcing awareness, timing, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the quiet heartbeat of households, families, and communities. As night fell fully, lamplight glimmered softly, fires flickered, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered gently through homes, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life, a calm, soothing current that carried culture, wisdom, and civilization forward, unbroken across generations. As the cycles of days, months, and seasons continued, women's lives in ancient Greece remained a seamless, immersive rhythm, each action naturally flowing into the next, forming the backbone of households, families, and communities. Morning light stirred courtyards, kitchens, and looms into gentle motion. Fires tended, water drawn from wells, grain ground into flour, dough kneaded carefully, cloth woven with precision, meals prepared, and children guided with quiet, deliberate attention. Each repetition reinforced skill, patience, endurance, and subtle authority, embedding continuity, culture, and reflection into daily life. In Athens, mothers and grandmothers quietly instructed daughters, passing down both practical household knowledge and moral lessons, ensuring that wisdom flowed unbroken through generations. Spartan women maintained a delicate balance between domestic oversight and physical training, cultivating resilience, strength, and discipline, guiding children and managing the household with calm authority. Corinthian households occasionally absorbed small influences from travelers or trade, subtly adjusting textiles, foods, or ritual practices, yet the immersive flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained uninterrupted, forming a continuous current connecting past, present, and future. Seasonal cycles and celestial movements guided life's rhythm. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation were synchronized with the sun, the moon's phases, and the behavior of animals, embedding awareness and reflection into daily routines. Festivals, though brief, brought music, dance, and communal participation, yet women observed carefully, teaching daughters the subtleties of timing, gesture, and social conduct, preserving cultural knowledge and continuity. Evening storytelling became the focal point of life after labor and ritual. Lamplight flickered and fires glowed as myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family histories were recited in long, continuous, hypnotic narratives. Children absorbed lessons not only through words but through cadence, repetition, and tone, internalizing ethics, culture, and subtle social understanding. Daily labor and ritual intertwined seamlessly. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter merged practical and spiritual life, embedding reflection and moral guidance into routine actions. Knowledge flowed quietly across generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers and mothers guided daughters, ensuring continuity of skill, culture, and wisdom. Observation of nature, the moon's phases, sun movement, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, connected household life to the broader world, reinforcing awareness, timing, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition strengthening skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the steady heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed softly, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories flowed quietly, completing another continuous segment in the immersive, meditative rhythm of life, a slow, comforting current carrying culture, wisdom, and civilization forward unbroken across generations. With the passage of time, the rhythm of women's lives continued in a seamless, meditative current, each task flowing naturally into the next, sustaining households, nurturing children, and preserving culture. Dawn brought gentle motion to kitchens and courtyards. Fires were stoked, water drawn from wells, grain ground into flour, dough kneaded slowly, cloth woven with careful precision, meals prepared, and children guided with quiet attention. Each repetition reinforced skill, patience, endurance, and subtle authority, embedding stability and continuity into daily life. In Athens, mothers and grandmothers quietly instructed daughters, passing down practical household knowledge, ethical guidance, and social understanding, ensuring that wisdom and tradition flowed uninterrupted through generations. Spartan women blended domestic oversight with physical discipline, cultivating strength, resilience, and attentive care while managing households and guiding children with calm authority. Corinthian households sometimes incorporated subtle innovations from trade or travelers, introducing new foods, textiles, or rituals, yet the continuous, immersive flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained unbroken, forming a steady current connecting generations. Seasonal cycles and celestial rhythms structured life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation followed the sun, the moon's phases, and animal behavior, embedding awareness, reflection, and rhythm into every household task. Festivals provided brief, luminous interludes with music, dance, and communal participation, yet women absorbed each element with care, teaching daughters the subtleties of timing, gesture, and decorum, ensuring cultural and social continuity. Evening storytelling anchored households, as lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recounted in long, hypnotic, continuous narratives. Children absorbed lessons not only through content but through cadence, repetition, and tone, internalizing ethics, cultural memory, and social awareness. Daily labor and ritual intertwined. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and quiet influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter merged practical and spiritual life, embedding contemplation and moral guidance into daily routines. Knowledge flowed across generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, culture, and ethical understanding. Observation of nature, the sun's movement, moon phases, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, linked households to broader cycles, reinforcing awareness, timing, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the invisible yet essential heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered quietly, completing another continuous segment in the immersive, meditative rhythm of life. A slow, calming current carrying tradition, wisdom, and civilization forward across generations. As the day matured, women's lives continued in a seamless, flowing rhythm, each action merging naturally with the next, creating a continuous current that sustained households, nurtured children, and preserved culture. Mornings were filled with familiar, deliberate tasks. Fires tended and stoked, water drawn from wells, grain ground into fine flour, dough kneaded slowly, cloth woven carefully, meals prepared thoughtfully, and children guided with patient instruction. Each repetition strengthened skill, endurance, patience, and subtle authority, forming the quiet backbone of domestic life. In Athens, daughters observed and gradually assumed responsibility, learning household management, ethical reflection, and social decorum from mothers and grandmothers, ensuring continuity of knowledge across generations. Spartan women blended domestic oversight with physical discipline, cultivating strength, resilience, and attentive care, maintaining households and guiding children with calm authority. In Corinth, trade and travelers occasionally introduced subtle innovations, new foods, textiles, or rituals, yet the immersive, unbroken flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling persisted, linking generations in continuous rhythm. Seasonal cycles and celestial movements structured life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation were aligned with the sun, moon, and the behaviors of animals, embedding awareness and reflection into routine tasks. Festivals provided moments of music, dance, and communal gathering, yet women absorbed the details with careful observation, teaching daughters the subtleties of gesture, timing, and social norms, preserving cultural continuity. Evening storytelling anchored households, as lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family histories were recited in long, meditative, continuous narratives. Children absorbed lessons through repetition, cadence, and tone, internalizing ethics, cultural memory, and social understanding. Daily labor and ritual were inseparable. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of reflection, meditation, and influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter merged spiritual and practical life, embedding moral reflection into daily routines. Knowledge flowed quietly across generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, cultural memory, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature, the sun's arc, moon phases, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, connected households to the wider world, reinforcing awareness, timing, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition reinforcing skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the invisible heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered gently through homes, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life. A slow, calming current that carried tradition, culture, and civilization forward unbroken across generations. As days flowed seamlessly into one another, the quiet rhythm of women's lives continued, a continuous, meditative current that shaped households, nurtured children, and preserved cultural memory. Dawn brought gentle movement across kitchens and courtyards, fires tended and maintained, water drawn from wells, grain ground into fine flour, dough kneaded slowly, cloth woven with careful precision, meals prepared thoughtfully, and children guided with patient instruction. Each repetition reinforced skill, endurance, patience, and subtle authority, forming the invisible foundation of domestic life. In Athens, daughters learned by observing mothers and grandmothers, gradually assuming responsibility for household tasks while absorbing lessons in ethics, social behavior, and moral reflection, ensuring continuity of knowledge across generations. Spartan women balanced domestic oversight with physical training, their resilience and strength mirrored in their guidance of children and the orderly functioning of households. Corinthian households occasionally incorporated subtle influences from trade or travelers, new foods, textiles, or rituals, but the unbroken flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained central, preserving continuity and cultural rhythm. Seasonal cycles and celestial movements structured life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation aligned with the sun, moon phases, and animal behavior, embedding awareness and reflection into routine work. Festivals, though intermittent, brought music, dance, and communal gathering. Yet women absorbed these moments carefully, teaching daughters subtle lessons in timing, gesture, and social decorum. Evening storytelling became the heartbeat of households, as lamplight and flickering fires illuminated spaces where myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recited in long, continuous, hypnotic narratives. Children internalized lessons through repetition, cadence, and tone, absorbing ethical guidance, cultural memory, and social understanding. Daily labor merged seamlessly with ritual. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of reflection, meditation, and quiet influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter blended practical and spiritual life, embedding moral reflection and continuity into daily routines. Knowledge passed quietly through generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers and mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, cultural understanding, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature, the phases of the moon, the sun's movement, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, linked households to the broader world, reinforcing awareness, timing, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition strengthening skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the invisible heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered gently, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life. A slow, comforting current that carried tradition, culture, and civilization forward across generations. As the days, months, and years passed, the rhythm of women's lives in ancient Greece remained unbroken, a continuous, meditative flow that shaped households, nurtured children, and preserved culture across generations. Mornings began with familiar, deliberate tasks. Fires tended and stoked, water drawn from wells, grain ground into fine flour, dough kneaded with care, cloth woven precisely, meals prepared thoughtfully, and children guided with patient instruction. Each repetition strengthened skill, endurance, patience, and subtle authority, forming the invisible backbone of domestic life. In Athens, daughters learned by observation and participation, gradually assuming responsibility while absorbing lessons in ethics, morality, and social decorum, ensuring knowledge and cultural continuity flowed uninterrupted through generations. Spartan women maintained a balance of domestic management and physical discipline, cultivating strength, resilience, and attentive care, guiding children and maintaining the household with quiet authority. Corinthian households occasionally integrated subtle innovations from travelers or trade, new foods, textiles, or rituals, but the immersive, continuous flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained central, preserving rhythm and connection across generations. Seasonal and celestial cycles structured life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation followed the movement of the sun, phases of the moon, and the behavior of animals, embedding reflection and awareness into daily routines. Festivals provided moments of music, dance, and communal interaction, yet women absorbed each with care, teaching daughters subtle lessons in timing, gesture, and social understanding. Evening storytelling anchored the household's rhythm. Lamplight flickered, fires glowed, and myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family history were recited in continuous, hypnotic narratives. Children absorbed lessons through repetition, cadence, and tone, internalizing ethics, cultural memory, and social understanding. Daily labor and ritual intertwined seamlessly. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter blended spiritual and practical life, embedding moral reflection and continuity into the flow of domestic routines. Knowledge passed quietly through generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, culture, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature, the sun's movement, moon phases, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, connected households to the wider world, reinforcing timing, awareness, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition strengthening skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered softly, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life. A slow, calming current carrying tradition, culture, and civilization forward unbroken across generations. As the quiet rhythm of life continued, women moved through the days with a seamless, meditative flow, each task naturally leading to the next, forming a continuous current that sustained households, nurtured children, and preserved culture. Dawn brought the familiar motions of domestic life. Fires tended and stoked, water drawn from wells, grain ground into flour, dough kneaded slowly, cloth woven with careful attention, meals prepared thoughtfully, and children guided with gentle instruction. Each repetition reinforced skill, patience, endurance, and subtle authority, shaping households and embedding continuity across generations. In Athens, daughters learned by watching and participating, gradually assuming responsibility while absorbing lessons in ethics, social conduct, and household management, ensuring the seamless transmission of knowledge and cultural memory. Spartan women blended domestic oversight with physical discipline, cultivating strength, resilience, and attentive care, guiding children and maintaining household order with quiet authority. Corinthian households occasionally incorporated subtle innovations from trade or travelers, new foods, textiles, or rituals, but the immersive, continuous flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained unbroken, connecting generations and preserving cultural rhythm. Seasonal and celestial cycles structured daily and yearly life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation were guided by the sun, moon phases, and animal behavior, embedding awareness and reflection into routine tasks. Festivals brought moments of music, dance, and communal gathering, yet women absorbed each detail carefully, teaching daughters subtle lessons in timing, gesture, and social understanding, maintaining continuity of culture and society. Evening storytelling anchored household life. Lamplight flickered, fires glowed, and myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recited in long, continuous, hypnotic narratives. Children absorbed lessons through repetition, cadence, and tone, internalizing ethical guidance, cultural memory, and social awareness. Daily labor merged seamlessly with ritual. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter intertwined spiritual and practical life, embedding moral reflection into daily routines. Knowledge passed quietly across generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, culture, and ethical understanding. Observation of nature, the movement of the sun, moon phases, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, connected households to the broader world, reinforcing awareness, timing, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition strengthening skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the steady heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered, fires flickered, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered softly through the air, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life. A calm, soothing current that carried tradition, culture, and civilization forward unbroken across generations. As the final hours of day faded into night, the continuous rhythm of life in ancient Greece flowed quietly and unbroken, each action moving seamlessly into the next, a meditation of household, family, and culture. Fires glimmered softly, water was drawn and set aside, grain had been ground, dough kneaded, cloth woven, meals prepared, and children guided through patient instruction, each movement deliberate and reflective. In Athens, daughters now carried responsibilities alongside their mothers, internalizing lessons in practical household management, ethics, and social harmony, ensuring the continuity of wisdom across generations. Spartan women balanced domestic oversight with enduring physical discipline, their strength and resilience reflected in the calm, measured rhythm of home life. Corinthian households occasionally absorbed subtle innovations from travelers or trade, yet the immersive, continuous flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained unbroken, linking past, present, and future in an uninterrupted stream of life. Seasonal and celestial rhythms continued to guide planting, harvesting, festival preparation, and sacred rituals, embedding reflection, awareness, and alignment with nature into every task. Festivals punctuated the year, bringing music, dance, and communal celebration, yet women absorbed these moments attentively, teaching daughters the subtleties of timing, gesture, and social conduct, preserving culture and continuity. Evening storytelling became the final anchor. Lamplight flickered, fires glowed, and myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family histories were recited in long, continuous, hypnotic narrative, a slow current of reflection and cultural memory. Children absorbed lessons through repetition, cadence, and tone, internalizing ethics, social norms, and understanding of their world. Daily labor merged with ritual seamlessly. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, performing sacred gestures, and observing offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and rites of Demeter became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Generational knowledge passed quietly but powerfully. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, culture, and moral understanding. Observation of nature, the sun's movement, moon phases, seasonal shifts, and the behavior of animals, continued to connect household life to the broader world, reinforcing timing, awareness, and reflection. Life flowed deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition strengthening skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the steady heartbeat of households, families, and communities. As the night deepened fully, lamplight glimmered softly across courtyards, fires flickered gently, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered quietly through every home. The quiet current of civilization, culture, and wisdom persisted across generations, carried forward in the slow, continuous, meditative rhythm of daily life. And thus, the lives of women, children, and families in ancient Greece, shaped by labor, ritual, observation, and storytelling, continued seamlessly into the night, leaving behind a legacy of patience, endurance, reflection, and unbroken cultural memory. In this calm, immersive, uninterrupted flow, the story of life, tradition, and civilization reached its serene conclusion, a continuous, meditative heartbeat that carried history forward, timeless, unhurried, and eternal. As the night deepened, the quiet rhythm of households persisted, an unbroken current of domestic life, ritual, and reflection. Women moved gently through familiar routines, ensuring fires glimmered safely, water was stored, dough kneaded or bread baked, cloth woven, and children guided with patient attention. Every action carried a meditative quality, each repetition embedding skill, endurance, patience, and subtle authority. In Athens, daughters now managed small tasks independently, internalizing lessons in household management, moral reflection, and social conduct. Spartan women combined domestic care with disciplined training, guiding children and maintaining household order while cultivating resilience and strength. Corinthian households sometimes adapted minor innovations from visitors or trade, yet the immersive, continuous flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained central, linking past, present, and future in an uninterrupted stream of life. Seasonal and celestial cycles continued to guide planting, harvesting, festival preparation, and sacred rituals, embedding awareness, reflection, and rhythm into everyday tasks. Evening storytelling became the heart of the home. Lamplight flickered, fires glowed, and myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and family histories were recited in slow, continuous, hypnotic cadence. Children absorbed these lessons through tone, repetition, and rhythm, internalizing ethics, cultural memory, and social understanding. Daily labor merged with ritual. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, performing sacred gestures, and observing offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and rites of Demeter became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Knowledge flowed quietly across generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, culture, and moral understanding. Observation of nature, the sun, moon, seasonal shifts, and animals, linked household life to the broader world, reinforcing awareness, timing, and reflection. Life moved deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, forming the steady heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered softly, fires flickered, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered quietly, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life, carrying culture, wisdom, and civilization forward. As the night deepened further, life in ancient Greece continued its slow, unbroken rhythm, each action flowing naturally into the next, creating a seamless current of domestic care, reflection, and cultural continuity. Women moved through their duties with quiet deliberation. Fires tended, water drawn, grain ground, dough kneaded, cloth woven, meals prepared, and children guided with patient, attentive care. Each repetition reinforced skill, endurance, patience, and subtle authority, forming the invisible foundation of household and community life. In Athens, daughters increasingly took on responsibilities, absorbing lessons in household management, ethics, and social decorum from mothers and grandmothers, ensuring that wisdom flowed unbroken across generations. Spartan women combined domestic oversight with disciplined physical training, cultivating strength, resilience, and careful attention, guiding children and maintaining order within the home. Corinthian households occasionally integrated minor innovations from travelers or trade, yet the continuous, immersive flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained intact, preserving rhythm, knowledge, and cultural memory. Seasonal cycles and celestial movements continued to structure life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparations aligned with the sun, moon phases, and animal behavior, embedding awareness and reflection into daily routines. Festivals punctuated the year with music, dance, and communal gatherings. Women observed these carefully, teaching daughters the subtle nuances of gesture, timing, and social etiquette. Evening storytelling anchored the household. Lamplight flickered, fires glowed, and myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recited in long, continuous, hypnotic narratives. Children absorbed lessons through cadence, repetition, and tone, internalizing ethics, cultural memory, and social understanding. Daily work merged with ritual. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, performing sacred gestures, and observing offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and rites of Demeter became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Knowledge passed quietly across generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, culture, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature, the movement of the sun, moon, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, connected the household to the broader world, reinforcing awareness, timing, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition strengthening skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the steady, comforting heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered softly, fires flickered, looms hummed gently, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered quietly, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life, carrying culture, wisdom, and civilization forward unbroken across generations. As the night deepened into its quietest hours, the seamless rhythm of daily life persisted, each action flowing naturally into the next, forming an unbroken meditative current of domestic care, ritual, and cultural memory. Women moved with gentle purpose. Fires attended, water set aside, grain ground and stored, dough kneaded, cloth woven, meals prepared, and children guided with patient, watchful care. Each repetition reinforced skill, patience, endurance, and subtle authority, quietly shaping the household and embedding the continuity of tradition. In Athens, daughters had grown in responsibility, absorbing lessons in household management, ethics, and social harmony from mothers and grandmothers, ensuring knowledge and wisdom were transmitted unbroken across generations. Spartan women maintained a balance of domestic management and disciplined physical training, cultivating strength, resilience, and careful attentiveness while guiding children and overseeing the orderly functioning of the home. Corinthian households occasionally incorporated minor innovations from travelers or trade, yet the immersive, continuous flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling remained unbroken, linking generations in a continuous, reflective current. Seasonal and celestial rhythms structured life. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation were guided by the sun, moon phases, and the behavior of animals, embedding awareness, reflection, and alignment with nature into daily routines. Festivals brought music, dance, and communal celebration, yet women absorbed each moment attentively, teaching daughters subtle lessons in timing, gesture, and decorum, ensuring cultural and social continuity. Evening storytelling anchored the household. Lamplight flickered, fires glowed, and myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recited in long, continuous, hypnotic narratives. Children absorbed lessons through repetition, cadence, and tone, internalizing ethical guidance, cultural memory, and social understanding. Daily labor merged with ritual. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter intertwined spiritual and practical life, embedding reflection and moral continuity into everyday tasks. Knowledge passed quietly through generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, culture, and ethical understanding. Observation of nature, the sun, moon, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, connected households to the wider world, reinforcing timing, awareness, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition strengthening skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the invisible, steady heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night settled fully, lamplight glimmered softly, fires flickered gently, looms hummed steadily, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered quietly through the air, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life, carrying tradition, culture, and civilization forward unbroken across generations. As the night stretched onward, the rhythm of life continued quietly, seamlessly, and unbroken, each task flowing naturally into the next, forming a meditative current of domestic care, reflection, and cultural continuity. Women moved with deliberate, gentle steps. Fires maintained, water drawn and stored, grain ground and sorted, dough kneaded, cloth woven, meals prepared, and children guided with calm, patient instruction. Each repetition reinforced skill, endurance, patience, and subtle authority, sustaining households and embedding the continuity of tradition. In Athens, daughters now carried significant responsibilities, absorbing lessons in household management, ethics, and social decorum from mothers and grandmothers, ensuring knowledge, skill, and cultural memory passed unbroken across generations. Spartan women balanced domestic oversight with physical discipline, cultivating strength, resilience, and attentive care, guiding children and maintaining order within the home. Corinthian households sometimes adapted minor innovations from travelers or trade, yet the immersive, continuous flow of labor, observation, prayer, and storytelling persisted, linking generations in an uninterrupted stream of life. Seasonal and celestial cycles continued to shape routines. Planting, tending, harvesting, and festival preparation aligned with the sun, moon phases, and animal behavior, embedding awareness and reflection into daily tasks. Festivals provided moments of music, dance, and communal participation, yet women absorbed these carefully, teaching daughters the subtleties of timing, gesture, and social conduct, preserving cultural continuity. Evening storytelling anchored households. Lamplight flickered, fires glowed, and myths of gods, goddesses, heroic deeds, and ancestral histories were recited in long, continuous, hypnotic narratives. Children absorbed lessons through cadence, repetition, and tone, internalizing ethics, cultural memory, and social understanding. Daily labor merged seamlessly with ritual. Spinning, weaving, cooking, tending children, and performing sacred gestures became acts of meditation, reflection, and subtle influence. Offerings to Hestia, prayers to Athena, and seasonal rites of Demeter intertwined spiritual and practical life, embedding moral reflection and continuity into routine actions. Knowledge passed quietly across generations. Grandmothers instructed mothers, mothers guided daughters, preserving skill, culture, and ethical guidance. Observation of nature, the sun, moon, seasonal shifts, and animal behavior, linked households to the wider world, reinforcing timing, awareness, and reflection. Life unfolded deliberately, immersively, and unhurriedly, each repetition strengthening skill, patience, endurance, reflection, and subtle authority, forming the steady, invisible heartbeat of households, families, and communities. Night deepened fully, lamplight glimmered softly, fires flickered gently, looms hummed, children slept peacefully, and prayers and stories whispered quietly, completing another continuous, immersive segment in the meditative rhythm of life, carrying tradition, culture, and civilization forward unbroken across generations. Thank you for joining us on this serene journey through the quiet, immersive lives of ancient Greece. If you enjoyed drifting through the meditative rhythm of daily life, rituals, and timeless stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment sharing which part of history you found most soothing. Your support helps us create more relaxing sleep stories and immersive history journeys for everyone. Sit back, relax, and let the calm, continuous heartbeat of history guide you gently into the next story, where every whisper of the past becomes a path to peaceful sleep.